my screen, so let me know if it is good for you, this intensity or not. Well, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, excellent. Well, Leire told me that a good practice you have been implemented in this seminar is to start with Mentimeter questionnaire. So I would really like if you could just use your mobile phone to take a picture of this code and start about three simple questions so that I can focus the presentation on those topics that could be more relevant for you and dedicate a little bit more time there rather than in the general presentation. So I will go to the screen here. One second. Yeah, you have the code here. The first question is about what is your job position? Basically to know if you are more from the administrative side, researcher, professor, and have an idea of the participants. I will dedicate 1-2 minutes, and then I will move to the other question. Okay, at the moment it's mostly from administration, which they have a lot to do here in the sustainability implementation in university, so it's good. Okay, so mostly I see professor, researcher, and administration. So then, if you allow me, I will go to the next question. Okay, so more or less professor administration is quite similar. Okay, when we are around 20 responses, I will move to the other question. Well, if it is okay, I will move. That's good for me to know. Let me see how I can move to the other slide. Okay, next question is, what are your main interests in today's talk? So you have different options here: carbon footprint calculation, organizational circularity assessment, data collection systems, sustainable development goals assessment, stakeholder engagement, questionnaires and interviews, supporting tools, and circular low carbon solutions. More or less, this is about my presentation. These are the main topics. So I would like to know what are your main interests so that I can dedicate a little more time there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, low carbon solution, good, because I have a few to share. Sustainable development goals assessment. I will show you what was our method. So maybe you can replicate it. Although it is not the core of the presentation, but I will dedicate some time there. Data collection systems, critical. So this is good to know that you have also a concern there or an interest. Okay, these three are the main topics, so I will dedicate a little more time in data collection, sustainable development goals assessment, and circular low carbon solutions. Okay, perfect. Next question. This is an open question. What do you think are the main challenges at your university when it comes to reducing the carbon footprint? Please, just one or two words that come to your mind about the main barrier, the main challenge at your university, to see if they are similar to our challenges here in Mondragon. So you can just include one word that summarizes it, or maybe a couple of words, a little phrase, that would be great. I will give you a couple of minutes also, and then I will officially start the presentation. Okay, stakeholder engagement, critical. Student mobility, good, yes. Organization awareness and coordination. Engagement. Yeah, these for sure are critical aspects. Mobility again, data collection, rector's commitment, absolutely. Travel clients. Thermal comfort, yes, for energy efficiency, that is also critical. All buildings, mobility and engagement. Well, mobility, as we can see here, comes quite a lot. engagement, stakeholder engagement, rector's commitment also. Engagement is there. Data collection, willingness of staff to change things. Budget, yes, of course. Budget again, all buildings. Yeah, the term buildings also is critical. Travel, mobility again. Yeah, more or less you can see that it's budget, engagement and commitment, mobility, data collection. More or less we can summarize this and building management. Okay, so if this is good for you, then I will end this questionnaire and I will go to my presentation. Okay, so thank you very much for taking the time to vote. Now I will check my mobile to consume 30 minutes, I hope, no more than 40, I hope, because I have a lot to share. Well, basically, I will provide a little bit of a context first and show you what is our project about developing a circular and sustainable campus in Mondragon that we have been developing since 2020. Then what is our approach regarding the organizational circularity and carbon footprint assessment, the method we are applying. I will share some results, key findings and conclusions, and some key takeaways. The takeaways are related with the votes you have already shared, so we are aligned there. Mondragon, well, we are part of the Mondragon Corporation, that is a cooperative system we have here in Spain, and probably the only one successful in the world in terms of industrial cooperative system. We are in the Basque Country, north of Spain, and we have 9 campuses in the Basque Country and 1 in the south of France. So we are quite dispersed in the territory, which is also quite a challenge for us to manage the campuses, because it is not in a single location in a centralized mode. It is dispersed in the territory. So why we started to measure in the circularity and the sustainability performance of the university, basically to align with the policies that are in place in Europe. You know which policies are there. And we as universities must lead by example. This is for us critical because university is training the future professional people, no? And we must lead with example so that people goes to the industry with this in mind and can make a change. So we decided in 2020 to give shape to a project with the goal to develop and implement a framework, so a methodology, a tool, and a set of indicators so that we can identify, evaluate, deploy, and monitor circular economy strategies to improve resource efficiency and reduce the environmental footprint of the university while contributing to the Agenda 2030. So this is our main goal and what we have been working on over the past 6 years. This is more or less our historical process, so that I want to share with you. All what I am going to share today is practical, is exactly what we did in our organization to see if this resonates with you, if we are aligned with what you are doing, or something different could inspire some ideas. So basically, in 2020, we started with an exploration study with a student and 2 researchers. I am one of them. And we decided to analyze how well was implemented the circular economy and the sustainability criteria in the organization. So we check different policies, the websites, we did a questionnaire with some key stakeholders in our institution to receive feedback and to see what was the sustainability culture we have in place. After that, we did a benchmark assessment. So we wanted to compare our performance compared to other universities in the Basque Country and in Europe. So basically what we did is to identify the top performing universities in Europe and the world, plus the Basque universities, and check which were their sustainability goals, the strategies, best practices implemented, and to see if we could align to those and adapt some of these strategies in our organization. At the same time, in parallel, from 2020 onwards, we set up our methodology and approach, our data collection system, our tool set. This is something that we are continually improving as we move on. It is not a fixed set of tools. We are learning by doing, right? So as during the process, we are learning how to do things better and improving the process. Then from 2020 to present, also we started to calculate the carbon footprint and the circularity. Circularity is something that we added later on in the process. And we are using also our data to develop the sustainability reporting systems in our institution. And finally, based on all these studies, we started to analyze on the decarbonization scenarios to meet our targets. It is important to say that the stakeholder participation is quite active in our institution. The board of directors is involved, people from administration as well, services and campus management, academics. So we have a group of people working together, and we are meeting monthly. And also we started to communicate this internally between students, staff, suppliers to start to producing this cultural change, no? The mindset change. Just to let you know, we are developing always 2 workshops per year, 2 participatory workshops per year, where we are getting all the people in the table, meaning people from the board of directors, administration, campus management, and researchers, plus some students. So we do 2 per year, 1 in early academic year and 1 late. For us is June or July. Then we started the process by selecting 1 major campus per faculty. So we have 4 faculties, and therefore we are analyzing 4 major campuses. And each faculty has a specific working group involved in the project with a mixed team. So people from administration, building management, and researchers. And we are communicating with them multiple times, not only in the workshop, we do 2 workshops per year and faculty. So in total, we are doing 8 workshops per year, plus multiple communication by phone and email. So this is important because if this doesn't work, if the team we create doesn't work or doesn't communicate and is not involved, it is very difficult to progress in terms of circularity or sustainability implementation. So now with some key results per block. So the first historical activity we did was the exploratory assessment. Some of the questions we asked ourselves was, what is the level of understanding of the university staff regarding circular economy and sustainability? Second, where we can start our process of circularity and sustainability audit, because to see how well we are in there. And how can we define an internal action plan and set up a working groups? So basically, these were the questions we asked ourselves at the beginning. So the best idea for us was to develop a questionnaire and share this questionnaire with key stakeholders of the institution. Key stakeholders from the board of directors, so the director of the faculty, the coordinator of procurement, the coordination of campus management, the coordinator of buildings. So we identified those key professionals and share a questionnaire. The questionnaire has some general questions about how familiar were the people with the circular economy and sustainability concepts. So it was general to understand if we are all on the same page. Then questions about circular economy, what distributed in terms of policy, marketing and strategy, organization and training, business model innovation, service innovation and suppliers, customers and collaborators. Regarding sustainable development goals, question regarding the relevance of each goal for us and why those goals and not others. And then barriers and opportunities. Okay, so this was quite a rich experience for us because people was answering to the questionnaire. We will receive very good feedback. And well, as I cannot share everything with you due to time constriction, I will share some slides. In this case, we evaluated from a scale from 0 to 5, the level of implementation of circular economy criteria and the sustainable development goals. In this case, you see that circular economy implementation was quite poor in terms of the, let's say, working related to the sustainable development goal was not quite bad. But then we identified that there were many barriers, but at the same time, many opportunities to work on this. Obviously, we have many things in each of these areas. To give you an example, for the analysis of the circularity readiness of the organization, we used the methodology ready to loop because we were involved very early in the process of developing this tool as a, let's say, a contributor, external contributor. And we evaluated the level of implementation of circularity criteria in terms of policy and market, strategy, organization, and upscaling, business model innovation, service innovation, and suppliers. And we see that there is a large room for improvement in each of these at the level of implementation of circularity criteria within the company strategy and organization. But in terms of the external, let's say, external customers, we were quite good because all of the research projects that we are doing implement somehow circular economy criteria or solutions. So in terms of service provision, we are addressing these topics, but in terms of the implementation of circularity criteria within our own company, there was a big gap there, as you can see. Regarding the Sustainable Development Goals, we use impact assessment tool that was developed by, I think, was a Swedish university. I can share with you later on this tool. And we identified that for us, the most relevant Sustainable Development Goal was number 4, so was education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 8 was decent work. 9, innovation, infrastructure, and these kind of things. And 16, peace and institutional justice. Okay, this is good, but the question was why the other Sustainable Development Goals are not so relevant for us. And we have a nice discussion about how we could approach the rest of the Sustainable Development Goals to make it meaningful for us. Because otherwise, as a university, will focus specifically on gender equality and education, quality education. Okay, but the rest, what can we do in this topic, right? So we use also the approach provided by the Stockholm Resilience Center that divide the Sustainable Development Goals by environmental goals, societal goals, and economic goals, and based on the use of cards, where each card was having the information, summary information regarding the targets and regarding the specific indicators associated with that particular goal. We had a discussion, and from there we could identify other goals that could be relevant for us, such as sustainable production and consumption, healthy people, climate action, apart from those that were already relevant for us. And the other Sustainable Development Goals were more critical for us because our activity was not impacting directly on those goals. One thing is what you can do at the level of research, and at the level of research or training, you can address all the Sustainable Development Goals, but in terms of your institution developing your own activity, this is another thing. It's not the same. And in our case, for us, we decided to focus on this specific Sustainable Development Goals here. But again, this was only to have an idea of what was the level of sustainability thinking within our staff. And from there to start developing a plan that will resonate with the way we think and with the way we want to pursue these things. Okay, benchmarking. So the question we asked ourselves were, how well are we communicating what we are doing in terms of sustainability management compared to other universities? What are the sustainability goals, strategies, and best practice that we can learn from top-ranked universities in Europe? And what is our reasonable carbon emission reduction target for us? By when we need to achieve it, why, and how we can get there. Okay, so this is some of the slides are in Spanish, but I am translating because some of are illustrations. Basically, if you are not communicating something in your website, it means that people will never know. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is, okay, what I am communicating in my website in terms of our environmental policy and strategy, if we are contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals and which of them, if we are providing training about sustainability, what we are doing internally in terms of the indicators we have in place to measure sustainability performance, internal programs to take action in terms of environmental sustainability, collaborations with other entities, and so on. Also, if we are communicating achievements we got in terms of reduction of consumption of energy and so on, and specific strategies implemented in the campus in terms of new services, servitization activities, sharing programs, and so on. So basically, we compare our university in the first column with other university in the Basque Country, Deusto, Navarra, País Vasco, and also the University of Barcelona, Valencia, and Madrid. This was first a national comparison, benchmarking, let's say. And we saw that the University in Basque Country, for example, or the University of Polytechnic University of Valencia, they were communicating quite well in the website what they were doing in terms of environmental management, but it wasn't our case. The same with the internal activities we were developing or other things. So the first thing we identified was that, okay, we need to act and improve our website. And we need to start using our website as a tool to communicate everything about sustainability. Otherwise, people will never know, and it seems that you are doing nothing in terms of sustainability. Okay. Secondly, we focus on 4 key ranking systems of universities in terms of sustainability performance. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, pioneering universities. This green metric that classifies university by green performance. The impact ranking regarding sustainable development goals, and the World University ranking, also about sustainability. And we decided to focus on the top 5 ranked universities of each of these different rankings. So we in total selected 20 universities. These were the universities, mostly where the top ranked universities were from United Kingdom, then Denmark, Netherlands, Portugal, Belgium, Sweden, and United States, and the 3 universities of the Basque Country. So what we did was to create a database with general information about each university in terms of where it was located, number of students, carbon reduction targets, okay, and some relevant links, and then all the best practices the university was implementing to mitigate CO2 emissions and reduce the use of different resources. Okay, so it was a very big database of information that we use for inspiration to take our own decisions. And also we identified that 70% of the identified universities were setting carbon neutrality targets by 2030 and 2040. So this also gave us an idea that our targets should be also set for that time frame, no? To be aligned with the policies and to be aligned with what other universities are doing. So we identified 196 key best practices. There were much more, but these were the best performing strategies, and we classified them by resource flow, energy, water, waste, materials, emissions, and subflow, obviously, electricity, climatization, fuels, and between functional areas, campus, mobility, there were others, within campus with the biodiversity, buildings, travel to university, business travel within mobility. So we classified the best practices by category. And after that, we developed 3 workshops in our institution, one dedicated to define our vision of a sustainable campus, and carbon reduction is one part of that vision. Second workshop was dedicated to evaluate and prioritize circular solutions to create this sustainable campus. And the third workshop about investment. Okay, from those priority solutions, which are the best performing to invest in the short term versus the long term. And to facilitate this process, we set up 2 different targets to achieve 50% reduction in CO2 emissions by the period 2028-2032, that for us represent a strategic plan of 4 years, and 100% reduction between 2036 and 2040, because we have 4 years to work on that. Okay. And then we define different activities that we needed to implement per functional area or per area of intervention and by resource flow. And you can see here how we link the different activities between them, because you need to know which activity could act as a facilitator of other activity. So it is important, once we have all the activities defined, to prioritize those 3, 4, 5 that could act also as a facilitator to achieve others in the process. And we did this kind of map that allow us to prioritize those activities. And the most important thing, we created our working groups. So first we decided to name three coordinators of the entire project, being I am one of them. And then we decided to develop three major working groups, one dedicated to communication, the director of the faculty, the responsible of communication in the faculty, the responsible of training programs, and the responsible of the residences, so where students sleep, to communicate this in all the university. Then, in terms of the development of what we call pilots, or what we call a circular economy solution, we decided to create different working groups. One focus on information and communication technology, other in materials, other in energy, waste, mobility, and procurement, because these are the most relevant, obviously, sources of impact in our institution. And within each, was one responsible. So we know who we need to contact to get information and to engage them in different processes. In terms of the method applied, we asked ourselves what is the methodological approach we should apply to assess the circularity and environmental performance of the institution, what supporting tools should we use, and what is the best way to gather the required information and data. As I told you, we focus on 4 major campuses we have in the Basque Country that cover for many people this student and staff. And then we wanted to apply the 7-layer approach. I don't know if you are familiar with this, but the 7S or 7-layer approach is all the layers regarding an institution. So each of the layers, system, site, scheme, structure, services, space plan, and staff, is contributing to an impact. So this is very interesting because you can do an inventory of all what you have in place following this 7S structure, as we did in Mondragon. So for each of the layers that represent an infrastructure, let's say, we develop an inventory of all the elements we have in place in our campus, and therefore all the areas where we can act to mitigate impacts. Otherwise, this is omitted, and you may be lost in the process, and there could be interesting areas for you to consider that you are not considering because you are missing this approach of the 7 layers. For us, worked, but this is only a suggestion, obviously. Then, in terms of calculation of the circularity and environmental performance, basically this figure represents the methodology we are applying. We are gathering inventory data from the 4 major campuses we have in place. And then we decided to apply the organizational environmental footprint of the European Commission to calculate the organizational impact of the institution using databases such as EcoInvent, Gavi, and AgriVals, that is for food products, as well as literature. For the circularity assessment, we decided to use the Circular Transition Indicator Framework and all the indicators associated with the framework, and therefore later on integrate the learning from the circularity assessment and the environmental assessment to determine carbon footprint, but also circularity. In this process, we develop a data collection sheet like this one to facilitate data gathering with the staff. This was very critical. Later on, we can talk about this, but it's very difficult to gather data when data is not in the unit you need, or data is, for example, about bags of something, and bag for you as a sustainability practitioner doesn't mean anything. You need to translate bag of something into kilograms of something specific. So within this process, we learn a lot about how we can communicate with the team to understand why we need this information in the way we need and try to facilitate the process. We consider all the indicators that are specified by the organization footprint, and those indicators that are specified by the circularity transition indicator framework. So close the loop, optimize the loop, and value the loop. And then we do the integration. So calculations. Basically we apply the lifecycle thinking perspective, and the functional unit always has been to analyze the annual impact of our institution in terms of all the operations which are teaching, research, transfer, knowledge transfer to companies, and social outreach. This is our, let's say, resource flows tree. We have 4 major categories: energy, water, materials, and waste. 16 families. For example, within energy, we have electricity and fossil fuels, and 184 major flows. We applied here the Pareto rule, meaning that we identify the 20% of flows that could be more critical for institution in terms of impact and economic expenditure. Applying the Pareto rule is critical. Otherwise, you will never cover everything in such a big institution such as a university. So Pareto rule is a mantra for us. And then, for example, within, let's say, lamps, we have many different flows, such as LED lamp, fluorescent lamp, other type of lamps. No? So obviously, to calculate the impact, we need to work at the third level of organization. So at the level of specific flows. This is an idea of the data collection sheet we developed. We also develop an Excel tool that once you provide the inventory data, it automatically calculates the impacts. If I have time later, I can show you the Excel if you want in the Q and answer section. And then some of the results I will share with you because I have 10 minutes. I will go a little quick now. So this is the impact we calculated before COVID. The year of COVID was removed from the calculation because that provides a lot of uncertainty. What was not a typical year. So why we need to consider something that was not conventional. So our baseline to analyze the carbon reduction goals is the pre-COVID situation. So the first year pre-COVID, which was the course 18-19. We have this amount of CO2 emissions, 1,000 tons of CO2 without considering mobility. This is another slide. And now, well, there was an increase of the impact due to different renovation of the buildings or purchase of different equipment. And now we are in 1,500 tons per year in the university without considering mobility. So you can see here the contribution by campuses. Our campus is the engineering campus, is the highest impact because we have a lot of industrial workshops, so we are consuming a lot of energy. And we can see the contribution of each campus to energy consumption, water, material consumption, and waste. The engineering campus is the highest contributor, except in materials, that is the campus of the Basque Culinary Center, due to the use of food to train the future chefs. You know, Master Chef is part of this Basque Culinary Center. And you can see here the scope of the missions between 1, 2, and 3. You know that scope 3 is really the problem in terms of the amount of emission you are generating. That depends on your supply chain. So you need to act with your clients and you need to act with your suppliers to mitigate this impact. And you can see here the material circularity of the different campuses and the comparison between material circularity and environmental impact. And this is interesting to know that the campus of engineering has the highest circularity, but at the same time the highest impact. And this is interesting to know if there is a relationship or a correlation between higher circularity and higher impact savings or not. In this case, doesn't is the case due to the type of material we are using in the engineering campus, which a lot of them are metals. Okay, but this gives some interesting ideas from the point of view of researcher. Decarbonization scenarios. This is an example. We evaluated much more scenarios, but these are 8 examples. Transition from a conventional energy mix to a renewable energy mix, implementation of photovoltaic panels, reduction of electronic equipment operating time, so turning off the equipment, replacement of existing lighting systems, energy saving cooling systems for data processing, which we were using a lot in the engineering campus, the implementation of 2 different rainwater harvesting systems, and the implementation of paper reuse printers, for example. And this is how we implemented those or analyzed those in each campus. And we identified that we could save with these 8 pilots 30% in carbon emission reduction, which is quite a big saving to achieve our target. Okay. So now I will give you 3 examples, and then I finish my presentation. Mobility is critical in each university. We develop a very, very big questionnaire that we share with all our staff and students in each of the campuses to gather information about how they were moving to university and from the university. Obviously, half percent of the people using car, because our university has the problem that is quite dispersed in the territory. So it is very difficult to, centralize mobility, let's say. And then we calculated many different things, but due to time, I am sharing just this slide. Our impact could be between, regarding to mobility, between 10,000 tons of CO2 per year to almost 16,000 of tons emitted per year, only mobility. This is the amount of fuels we will consuming, and the impact of the monetary impact of the mobility of the staff and students is between 5 million euros and 6 million euros. Much of this coming from the pocket of the people that is traveling to and from the university. So it is not only relevant to reduce emission, but to save money, a lot of money for the people. If you are applying a social responsibility mindset, this is important. And you can see here that fuel consumption could increase almost to 500% compared to the conventional energy we are using when we calculate the impact without mobility. And the impact could increase by 700. So you can see here the impact per campus. This is in dark blue without mobility, and in light blue, the impact related with mobility. So addressing mobility is critical for each campus because it's a major program to achieve carbon mitigation. And then we develop a flyer to communicate the result with the staff. And the flyer was having a QR code so that people could share their feedback regarding specific questions we are asking to improve. So we predefined some alternatives we could implement in our campus and ask people, students, staff, directors to vote for those that for them were more interesting, so that people knows is being heard. And if you implement later on a strategy, it will get a lot of engagement. Okay. Waste. Regarding waste, we measure if waste was segregated properly. We identified that 70% of the waste we have in the different bins were not properly segregated, were mixed. So in a bin where you have only plastic, there was plastic, organic waste, and so on. And then we started to ask ourselves, why is this? Is it because we are communicating this poorly with the labels? Is it because the shape of the bins is terrible? Is it because people doesn't care? So for us, it was very interesting to do this exercise to start changing the mindset of the people. And the same, we develop a flyer communicating the tons of waste we are generating, the impact the waste has, the cost for us to treat this waste annually in a single faculty, and a QR code for people to share their feedback regarding different strategies. So major use of digital technologies, remove single-use packaging, etc. And people were voting and sharing their interest, so that again, later on, if we implement this change, they will feel heard. And procurement, this is a very big, and I almost finished. This is a very big problem. Everything starts with procurement. If you are not buying by considering circularity and sustainability criteria, then you are directly generating a big impact. So we decided to apply the assessment tool that is for free, that the ISO 20400 is giving. So here you can see in orange, this is our institution. In blue is the average benchmark for this particular calendar year, and in green is the best performing company. Obviously, you can see here, but for the different action areas, understanding the fundamentals, policy and strategy, governance, enable people engaging stakeholders, and so on, there was a huge room for improvement in our case. Then this tool allows you to classify, to get a classification in terms of policy and strategy, processes, organization, and we saw that there was a very, very big gap here for us to improve. And it's interesting because this provides the structure for you to go step by step improving the whole system. So what we decided was to consider not only the ISO 420 and 400, but other standards that are applying in Basque Country and the government, and the national government, European Union, and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So we analyze in an integrated way what each of these standards was suggesting, and we created our own tool that is being now implemented in the automatic system we have in procurement. So basically, in the tool, we ask people first to think if this product is required or not, if it is required, if it can be reused or not, and so on. And we have different categories: gardening, textiles, furniture, office equipment. For each category, we define the criteria that we need to consider to make that purchase, or to consider that purchase as a green purchase or as a sustainable purchase. So based on the number of criteria you are fulfilling for that particular material, you will get a classification. This material is adequate because it's fulfilling a lot of criteria, is improvable or has a room for improvement, or is not adequate. So even if sometimes when you're doing research, you need to purchase something. So you are not going to block that purchase, because that is not going to be the case, because otherwise you can have a problem with the professor or whatever. But at least you get a classification like a street light, and you know at the end of the year how many of the purchases were adequate, improvable, or not adequate, to have a reflection about that. And then we develop a database of potential products we can use in the university that are circular in terms of chair, furniture, paints, so that people, when it's going to purchase this, especially the campus managers, can consider this. Last slide. Well, just 5 key sentences I want to say. When we are doing sustainability implementation in the university, is critical to obtain the buy-in from the board of directors. So that is obviously the most critical part: the rector, the vice rector, and so on. Secondly, the sustainability must be part of the university strategy, plans, and policies, including the annual performance review process with the specific metrics to monitor progress. Because otherwise, if this is not part of the policy and you have no metrics related to sustainability, you cannot measure progress, and you will not get people involvement, because it is not part of the performance review process. So this is very important that it's part of this process. Data gathering is the most complex and time-consuming activity. So having a well-structured and easy-to-use automatic system in place is critical. Now, with the use of AI tools, is quite easier than before, but it is very relevant to know how people is gathering data in the institution, and how that system could be translated in a more structured and easy-to-follow one. Then the working group should be active and highly involved. They must believe in the project, and all the teams must be well coordinated and communicated. No acting in silos. Otherwise, there is no progress at all. So there should be a team of champions, really, a team of champions, because otherwise it will never progress. And the organizational and cultural change is necessary to progress with the sustainability implementation, but changing mindset is the most difficult task of all. So communication, developing some activities in the campus, some questionnaire for the people to vote, training material, because changing mindset requires repetition. Repetition is like implementing a new habit. You need to do and do and do until it gets implemented. Well, this is all from my side. Sorry if I took longer than I expected, but it was a lot of things to share, and also sorry for my English, because having quite a while without going to the United Kingdom, it's a little bit rusty. Well, I don't know if you have some questions. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of information, so thank you so much. You did so well, I think, bringing all that information in such a short time, so that we could have a great overview of the tremendous work that you and the team have been doing in our university in the last years. So now, please, if you have questions, I can see there's some hands up already. So please, Juan.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, hello. My name is Juan. I'm from Estia. In Vidar, I'm doing a postdoc on user engagement on renewable environmental practices in the workplace. And I have a question. Well, it's like 3 questions regarding the work done in Mondragon. Sorry for the noise. The first one is, have you done any user research about the engagement of students and stakeholders on such practices? The second will be if you have applied any technology to encourage for environmental practices. So not only analyzing the data that what has been done, but like trying to engage users in the process. And the third is, have you seen any rebound effect on since you apply some green practices and so some energy saved, maybe some stakeholders, they start consuming more because they save more energy.
Good. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Yeah, regarding engagement of staff and students, we have some what we call open doors during the year. So we invite people during, I think it's 3 weeks in a particular month of the year, to come to a specific room we have in place in the campus to learn about this project. So we communicate this project actively by email, by our monitors and flyers we have around the campus. So it's projecting this, what we are doing and the goals and what we are achieving, plus the progress emails we are sending. The open doors we have also in place. And in our case, every time a staff and a student joins the university, they must go through a process of welcoming. This is mandatory for us. Even if you don't want to go, you need to go. In this welcoming process that takes a few weeks, is 1 day per week, and I think it's a couple of hours, we are explaining our philosophy. Obviously, in our case, it's a cooperative philosophy, so social responsibility is at the core. And as part of that, we are explaining also the project and the circular campus project and what we are expecting from the people, if you are a student or if you are a staff. So there are many different channels because at least you need to communicate things various times using 3 different channels. This is scientifically demonstrated, at least 3 different channels and repetition. In terms of tools we use, we implemented an app called Cyclogreen, and that app called Cyclogreen was mostly implemented to facilitate sustainable mobility, but it has a serious gain involved in the app. So if the people is progressing, it gets points and rewards, and the reward could be a big cheese, really nice Basque cheese, for example, as a prize, or a T-shirt or whatever. So we have some elements there that for the champions we are providing. It's not economically expensive for us. It's just a gift. And we are exploring the implementation of, well, we are going to develop within our project a specific app for the whole campus circularity. And finally, rebound effects. At the moment, we didn't measure that any rebound effect was happening because the information and communication technology system has implemented a few sensors and, let's say, software in place where when there is no people in the university or using specific equipment or even your laptop, it shut down, or it not shut down, but it blocks the screen, for example. So there are things in place to avoid the rebound effects, let's say. And at the moment, we didn't measure that we were consuming more energy because it was cheaper, or no, at the moment, no, but it could happen, yes. It could happen. So we need to consider that. And the only way to know if that is happening is by measuring the carbon footprint year by year. So I hope I explained myself well, Juan.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your question.
There is also a question in the chat, Johan, if you can see that.
Okay, let me check the chat. Question: how much you need work time for all this. Yes, that is critical. It's a lot of negotiation you need to with your supervisor or with the board of directors. I will tell you exactly in a transparent way how we are doing this. The university has decided to dedicate 50,000 euros per year to work on this. 50,000 euros per year. We're living in Spain, not in Sweden, so that is good money to work during 1 year, depending on the team you have in place and so on. So that cover the dedication of me as a researcher, only 10% of the time, something like this. Is not a lot of, but we are working. I have me, we have another colleague that is also a researcher, and then we have a student. It is critical to involve students in this process, master student or PhD students. We did all this first. We pay master student. They are not working for free in our case, because as we are a cooperative system, every graduate student and master student is getting paid, which is more than 1,000 euros per month. So we are using that 50,000 euros that I told you to cover a few hours of our dedication, plus having a student full-time working with us, a master student. Now, this master student that have been working with us during 3 years is going to do the PhD, the PhD thesis. So now we work 3 more years. So basically, we use that money to cover the student activity in this case, with an active involvement of myself as a supervisor and doing some of the calculation and so on. And then each of the faculties has created a small team, and for this to work without requiring additional money, let's say, you need to align the strategies that you are going to analyze. For example, the carbon footprint strategies that you are going to analyze as part of the project should be aligned with what the teams in each faculty wants to do to implement in practice. So that with the same time commitment, you do both activities. So for example, they want to do a renovation. Okay, as you are going to do a renovation, let's try to make that renovation sustainable and work together in data collection. So in order to do a lot with little money, it is important to have students, and later on to align your use cases with what each team in each faculty wants to do in practice, because they will be involved, let's say, for free. Otherwise, they will ask, how much money do you have to to cover my time? So this is the strategy we're using here in Mondragon. But I have to say that always the time is less than what you need. You would like to have more time, obviously, but you need to do what you can do with the time you have.
Very good. Any other questions?
Thank you, Marja. Thank you for the question.
Maybe I can use the chance to ask one. Moving forward, what are the main challenges and opportunities you see?
Well, the challenges is always data collection. This is the very big challenge and the most painful and the most because when you contact the different teams to provide data, they are not happy. They are never happy because it's a pain for them to gather the data. So you need to facilitate that as much as possible, doing a preliminary work about searching for literature so that you can have at least a range. They could give you an idea, or there is a qualitative work to do there. And what we want to do is to make this process easier and faster by implementing artificial intelligence. So we are trying within this PhD thesis that we are going to launch, well, we launched this month in May. We want to develop a system that can organize all the data we have in our institution and present it in a way that could be imported easily in our tools to measure the impact. So for us, always the main challenge will always be data gathering and data treatment, because that you spend a lot of money there as well. So if you are more efficient in data gathering, you are going to produce more value for money. And then could you please share the sources of the student impact assessment tool you mentioned? Yes, I will share it. This is a simple tool that asks you to go one goal by one, asking a specific question, and then it provides a kind of classification of the goals based on your interest. So I will share Leire told me that my presentation will be shared with you all. So in the same email I will send to Leire, I will provide the link to this tool. There are many different tools, but for us it was very easy to use tool because it should be something simple for use. Because if it is complex, people will not like it. And this tool was good to have some nice conversations. Good. Wait, you are mute, Leire, and I think Ines wants to say something.
I'm just curious about the first survey you just made about the environmental culture. Was there something surprisingly for you? Is this something outcome was you never expected from this survey?
No, not really, because I knew the sustainability mindset was not quite powerful in our institution, especially being an engineering faculty, because we started with the faculty of engineering. Focus on business and innovation, but not with sustainability. So it doesn't surprise to me, but this survey or questionnaire we did was very powerful tool to have some nice conversations, because when we share those results in the workshop we did, because during the questionnaire you find some patterns, and that was very nice to have good question, why this is relevant, why we need to go there, why we need to invest. And that was the beginning of the project. So without that activity, I don't know if the project was going to be successful and continue year by year as it is now. So that was a very nice to have all the people in the room, especially the board of directors, people from administration, open, talking freely about that particular issue. That was very, very nice. Yeah. So I recommend that if you did not do something like that yet, I recommend you to do that, to do this as a first step.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ines.
Very interesting. So I think we are getting to the closing time now. Thank you so much, Jan Manuel. It's been really, really interesting. And thank you everyone for joining and for participating in today's discussion. As Joan said, I will share all the material with you later on. And I also just shared the questionnaire in the chat. If you can answer it, you will see it's very, very quick, and it will help us a lot to improve future events. As you might know as well, we have 2 other seminars organized for this year, one on green IT in September, and another one on promoting students' mental health in November. So you're also, of course, very welcome to join that. And again, thank you so much for being here today and being part of these discussions.
Okay, well, thank you all. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you got some ideas, some inspiration. And well, thank you all for your good work in the EU4Dual project. So I congratulate you for that. It's a lot of work, so you are doing quite good. And well, we see you around again, maybe in the future with another talk. Huh?
Perfect.
I
Thank
hope
you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jan.
Okay.
It was really perfect.
Yeah. Have a good day. Eh? Ciao.
Ciao.
Have a good day.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.